Chapter 11, The Roof. Okay, Searchlight said. We need to find him. You'd think the bullies would go home for the holiday, not hang around here. I wonder if Ratchet's just, no, he wouldn't leave a mess like this. How long ago did this happen? They could have just stuffed him in a closet or something. What a way to spend Memorial Orn. Soundwave, can you find him? I took a deep vent and expanded my range to look for him. He'd probably be scared or frustrated. I felt out hallways and classrooms, but none of the processors there were his. I couldn't find Verdict and his friends either. Where were they? I expanded my range farther, wincing as it grew to include some of the nearby streets and the crowds there. Then I found him. I looked up. Say Earchlight. What? Where is he? Home. I stumbled to the door. Searchlight and Ravage followed. Ravage saw I here. No, Ravage said. Yes. I pointed into the room. Ravage hesitated, then exvented. Fine, but if they've hurt him, I'll rip them to pieces, whether or not we get in trouble for it. That was why he was staying here. The door closed behind us, and I looked back and forth, trying to decide which way would be the fastest. Where is he? Searchlight asked. I went left and he hurried to follow me. The EE roof. What? Searchlight said. No cameras up there. Nobody up there watching. They could do whatever they wanted to him. But they were waiting. Waiting for us. Searchlight took the lead and I followed. It was hard to focus on the situation with so many voices vying for my attention. We ran to the classroom wing and up flights of stairs. As we moved, my range moved, and I heard less noise as we put distance between us and the crowds below. Ratchet was frightened and in pain, and Motormaster stood looming over him menacingly. Jazz and Verdict were watching the roof access door, waiting for us. They'd seen us come into the building and knew we would be looking for Ratchet soon. They wanted to see if we could find them. We were venting hard at the second to last flight, and we stopped at the top of it. He's up there, Searchlight thought. Are Verdict and them still up there too? I nodded. Hit. I nodded again. We went up the last flight of stairs and burst out onto the roof. The stars were just coming out. Verdict and Jazz pushed away from the railing and Motormaster grabbed Ratchet's arm and pulled him to his PIDs. He whimpered as pain flared in his leg. Let him go, Searchlight said. If you've hurt him. Glad you could join us, Jazz said. Knew y'd show up eventually. We've got you now, don't we? Verdict grinned. I'm sorry, Ratchet thought. I'm sorry, Soundwave, I'm sorry. I said let him go, Searchlight growled. Motormaster, Verdict said. Motormaster lifted Ratchet up and calmly held him out over the railing. Ratchet gasped as there was suddenly nothing but 4 stories of atmosphere between him and the ground. No, Searchlight took half a step forward. You really want us to let him go? Verdict asked. It's not funny, Searchlight said. This is not funny. If you drop him he'll die. Bring him back over the roof. Motormaster smiled. He'll shatter on the ground. Little shards of metal and a sticky pool of energon. Sure it's funny, Verdict said. He's not actually going to do it, Jazz thought, looking at Motormaster. Not if you drop him, Searchlight said. What do I do? Oh, Primus, give him back. We want to know how you 3 have been avoiding us, Verdict said, and we don't want any fragging nonsense about Soundwave reading minds. Searchlight froze. I'm sorry, Ratchet thought. I told them. Or, Verdict said, then trailed off. He looked shocked. He looked surprised, Jazz thought, but not confused. It can't be the truth, can it? Motormaster almost dropped Ratchet, who cried out and reached up with his free hand to clutch at Motormaster's fingers, sobbing desperately. So start talking, Verdict said, feeling a little less sure of himself. What do we do? I can't believe he told them, but I'll talk when Ratchet's back on the roof. He's not involved in this. Let him go. Sure thing, Motormaster raised Ratchet higher. Call him off, Verdict, Jazz thought, starting to worry a little. Put him down on the roof, Verdict said. Motormaster was a little disappointed. He brought Ratchet over solid ground again and dropped him. Ratchet hit the roof with a clang and collapsed, still sobbing. So start talking. However we did it, Searchlight said, you know that's not the real problem. I'm the one you're after. Hang him back over the roof, Verdict growled. I said tell me what I want to know, not start feeding me slag. Ratchet tried to get up and run, but his leg collapsed underneath him. Motormaster picked him up and dangled him over the edge again. He looked up at us, optics glowing slightly in the dim light. Help me, please, he's going to drop me, Primus, he's going to drop me, Primus, I'm going to die. Stop, Searchlight said. Just listen, you've caught me now, alright, you've caught me. Soundwave and Ratchet weren't standing up to you before I came. They aren't really a part of this. It ought to be me you're dangling over that edge. Verdict narrowed his optics. Jazz frowned at Motormaster, then crossed his arms and tilted his helm to the side. Are you offering a trade, Searchlight? Oh, Verdict thought, reconsidering Searchlight's words. Yes, Searchlight couldn't keep the relief from his voice, though that hadn't been quite what he meant. Yes, I'm fragging offering a trade. Please just bring him back over the roof. He's not wrong about what he said, Verdict thought. Hey, Soundwave, can you hear me? Jazz wondered. I didn't move. I think I could agree to that, Verdict said. Motormaster, give the little sparkling back. Motormaster picked Ratchet up and tossed him over to us. He hit the roof, rolled, and then came to a stop, trembling. Soundwave, Searchlight said, take him and get out of here. Take him to Ochre. I looked at Searchlight, who was watching the bullies warily. Go, what's wrong with you? He glanced at me. Get out of here before they change their minds. It's okay, he said. I'll be okay, it's going to be fine, just get Ratchet out of here. No. Ratchet said, struggling to get to his PIDs. Please, Soundwave. I stepped forward and bent down to pick Ratchet up. No, Ratchet said again. He was heavy but I was used to having Ravage on my shoulders. Ratchet was in shock and his thoughts were panicked and shaky, but he recognized I wasn't a threat and let me pick him up. His leg was bent and twisted and leaking a little, and there was a deep dent on one of his shoulder plates as well. I headed through the door and down the stairs. I felt awful leaving Searchlight there. My range was large enough at the moment that I couldn't miss it when they started hitting him. Searchlight fought back at first, but that didn't last long. Soundwave, Ratchet whispered as I carried him down the stairs. I'm sorry. They're going to kill him and I told them, and it's my fault. It's okay why, I told him. My processor hurt. We have to go back for Searchlight. Not yet. I kept going. We can't just leave him there, we can't. I know I said. I'd go back for him, but first I needed to get Ratchet to a medic. His leg hurt worse than my processor ache. We went down another flight of stairs. Oker's office was on the ground floor in the administration wing. She was here, thankfully. Busy seeing a patient, but here. I ran down another flight of stairs. The longer it took, the more time they had with Searchlight. I could tell a teacher. I should tell a teacher, but because of the holiday, there weren't very many around. Cable Reach wasn't here, and in the time it would take for me to explain the situation and convince the teacher to come, Searchlight could be very badly hurt. I had recorded a video of them dangling Ratchet over the edge, and I could use that as evidence against them, but I'd have to deal with the current situation first and on my own. I felt Motormaster slam Searchlight into the railing. Hard. I reached the bottom of the stairs. One more to go. You're going to go back for him, right? Ratchet asked. Tell a teacher. They'll stop them. I nodded. Okay, Ratchet said. He was trying hard not to cry. Primus, I'm sorry, he said. I promised I wouldn't tell anyone. And then I told them. I couldn't tell him it was okay. I was close enough to pick up the crowds now. There would be fireworks soon. Everyone was excited. I got to the bottom of the last flight of stairs and stumbled into the wall. Ratchet's leg got pinned between me and the stairwell when I had to push off of it to keep my balance. He screamed. So worry why, I said. So sorry. It's okay, he thought. I ran down the halls and burst into Oker's office. Why you can't just sneak in there and steal the supplies to make your own fireworks, you little lunatic, she trailed off as I set Ratchet down. What happened to him? She demanded. Her other patient just stared with wide optics. Ratchet could explain. I had to go. I turned and sprinted out of the office again. I paid attention as Ratchet stumbled and Oker caught him and set him up on a berth. It was a little hard to pick up their thoughts because of the crowd. It was a good thing the school was so empty and I'd never be able to do this. I had maybe 40 or 50 mecha in my helm, including those who were in the school. But soon students would start coming back for the off cycle, and then I'd be in serious trouble. My range right now would cover almost the whole school if I stood right in the middle on the second or third floor. It was already shrinking, though. The farther I pushed it out, the faster it came back, fortunately. I went up the stairs again, stumbling so many times I lost count. I didn't have time to find a teacher. But I didn't need one. By the time I'd gotten to the top floor of the building, Searchlight was covered in dents and scratches, and I was suspicious that he had moderate internal injuries as well. Motormator slammed him into the ground again and again. And then he noticed the teacher's signal. He dropped Searchlight and stood. I started walking up the last flight of stairs to the roof access door. Scrap, Verdict said. A teacher. What do we do? He looked at Jazz. Jazz, we have to get off this roof, we're trapped up here. If Soundwave went and got a teacher. Jazz just frowned. This happens every time. Every time, Soundwave ditches then miraculously comes back with a teacher. But, I've never actually seen the teacher. Jazz. Jazz grinned. Nah, mech, it's alright. He looked at the roof access door. I froze, halfway up the stairs. Come on out, stutter. Searchlight got to his hands and knees and looked up. I opened the door and stepped out onto the roof. No, Soundwave, I told you to go. Well, look what came faithfully back. Jazz smirked, feeling relieved. He'd been getting a little worried, though he was almost certain Verdict would call Motormaster off before Searchlight was too badly hurt. Verdict looked up. He narrowed his optics. It's just been you every time with the teacher signal, hasn't it? Jazz said. I don't know how you figured that out, though. We never told anyone about that. We kept it completely secret. Unless you really can read minds. Really? Verdict stepped forward. How did he figure that out? No one can know about that. We'll have to threaten him with something to keep him quiet. Guess so, Jazz said. So what brings you back up here? You don't think you're gonna be able to stop us, do you? I didn't trust my voice. I didn't move. Creepy glitch. Verdict thought. I could work with that. I borrowed Searchlight's words from earlier, playing a few moments of audio recording. Let him go. They stared at me. As if. You can join him if you want. Verdict said. I played the recording again. Let him go. Or. Jazz thought. I didn't respond. He was fishing, trying to get me to hint at whether I could hear him thinking. What if I don't want to let him go? Verdict asked. I'm not going to make another trade. You're nothing. Not worth it. Without this mech, you're just another hopeless loser. Soundwave, get out of here. I played the video footage I had recorded of Motormaster holding Ratchet over the edge on my screen. I could show it to the teachers, to the headmaster. The camera turned and you could see the other two as well, and hear them talking. Jazz and Verdict both got the point. If you let him go, I won't show annual one. Verdict glared at me. Not good enough, Jazz said. He could just use it to blackmail us in the future. You gotta delete it. Fine. I want to see you delete it, Verdict said. And then as soon as he has, we'll catch him too. We are not going to lose this one. We're going to show them both who owns this school. This wasn't going to work. I took a deep vent. The odds know what the only why I said. Sorry, Jazz said. Couldn't quite understand that. He'd understood just fine. Fei Erdict and Motorma Asterbo of Che Itodo on the Iantra Ians exams. A-A and Jaw as is hacky, I more than just the Ecom ears. I have plenty to OG at YULX VL at my AB Van arrested. How can he know all that? Verdict wondered. He couldn't have guessed it. No, you don't, Jazz said. If you did, you'd have used it already. He must not be able to prove it. Of course, if your evidence comes from something you don't want any mech to know about. Soundwave, Searchlight said, then coughed a couple of times and spat out a mouthful of energon. I can find wise to pro it. Let him go. Jazz's optics widened a little. Was that a coincidence or did he just answer that thought? Verdict looked down at Searchlight. How does Soundwave know all that? This is not good. We can't let them go when they know so much, what do we do? And what's to stop you telling everyone after we let him go? He tells anyone, Jazz said, and we tell them he can read minds. What? Verdict asked. Don't, Searchlight said. It's true, ain't it? Jazz asked. How dumb are you? Verdict said. You actually believe the youngling. It can't be true. The youngling was lying. It makes sense, Jazz said. How he'd be able to evade us. How he'd know all that stuff. Searchlight shook his helm. You're making a mistake, Soundwave. Jazz looked at me. If you want us to let him go, you're gonna have to prove it. I nodded. Verdict, Jazz said. Ask him questions in your processor. Verdict looked at me. What makes you so sure I cheated on the entrance exams? I borrowed Jazz's voice. It's true, ain't it? You can't prove it. I call and fi and away. Verdict took a half step back, optics widening. It's really true. Oh, Pit, no, everything we think. I'll tell my creators about you. I'll tell the headmaster, they'll get rid of you. He's a freak, he really is a freak. Is he listening right now? Stay out of my helm. Jazz was a little bit calmer. You really did hear everything. We're gonna have to fix that somehow. If we can find a way to prove that you can read minds. They'd study you, wouldn't they? Cut you up to find out how you worked, slag. Motormaster just stared for a few moments, horror turning in his tanks. Then he stepped toward me. I'll kill him before he does anything. It took all the self-control I had to stand my ground. Motormaster. Verdict said. Motormaster stopped. Let's solve this problem now, he said. No, Verdict said. He'll get away. It's too dangerous. He knows everything. We can't do it like this. He seemed to regain control of himself. The only way to stop them would be to offline them, but we can't do that. Okay. He said. Jazz. What do we do? Jazz met my gaze. Okay, here's the deal. You delete that video, we'll leave. You don't tell anyone anything you know about us, and we won't tell them about you. For now. It would be hard for him to prove anything without telling them about the mind reading. And it would be hard for us to prove he can read minds. No one would believe us. I still barely believe it. Okay, Verdict said. Someone, I'll get him back. Someone, I'll find a way to tell someone without him retaliating. I'll find some evidence, or someone who'll listen to me deal. I nodded, but dread settled deep into my spark. Come on. Verdict took a few steps toward me, then stopped. He didn't want to come any closer to me. Want to get out of the way. I stepped away from the doorway and Verdict left the roof, followed closely by the other two. Jazz paused at the top of the stairs, looking back at me. One more thing, stutter. I brought up the video on my screen again, and then deleted it. They left. As soon as they were gone, I walked over to Searchlight. That was so stupid, mech, Searchlight said as I helped him to his PIDs. He groaned as things shifted inside of him in ways that they shouldn't have. I looked at him, then played back part of the earlier conversation. I still had some of the audio files. Soundwave, take him and get out of here. That had been just as stupid. Searchlight grimaced. Okay, point taken. But really, he looked down. They know now. What if they tell someone? What happens to you? They wouldn't, and, like Jazz had thought, even if they did, they'd have a hard time convincing anyone it was true. In any case, now was not the time to worry about that. I ducked under Searchlight's arm and supported him over to the top of the stairs. There was no way I could carry him like I had Ratchet, so we made our way slowly, painfully down the steps. But thank you for coming back, Searchlight said. I can't believe they would go after Ratchet like that. I came back in range of the crowds. And then you had to show up again, and tell them about your abilities. This is really bad, Soundwave. I knew. But right now I needed to get Searchlight to Ochre, and I had a multitude of thoughts and images of fireworks in my processor, coming from the crowds around the school. I stumbled halfway down the next flight, and just barely managed to catch the railing before both of us tumbled. We went more slowly, after that. You okay? Searchlight asked. He didn't get hurt, did he? I had to expand ND my Y range. When? Oh, to find Ratchet, I'm sorry. We started down the next flight. I'd be fine. I wonder how long they were up there, waiting for us? How long did they have Ratchet? We could ask him when we got down there. Is he alright? I nodded. He was traumatized, but he was doing better now, and Ochre was almost done, straightening out his leg. The rest of the journey down to the first floor was a blur. Searchlight was mostly walking on his own by then, which was a good thing because I was having trouble keeping my PIDs under me. Ochre looked up when I came in. Not someone else, another one, Soundwave. She rushed over. You come here. She dragged Searchlight over to a berth and he sat down with a grimace. So, she said as she scanned him. Ouch, I might need to refer you to another medic. I'm not cleared for fixing internal injuries like this. It's not that terrible, though it probably hurts. What happened? Searchlight, Ratchet said. I'm okay, Searchlight replied. I want to know what happened, Ochre said. None of you three are leaving this office until I know the truth. What is this going on? If neither of you want to tell her, I will, Ratchet thought. I'll leave out the stuff about mind reading. I nodded, just enough for him to see it. It was Verdict, Motormaster, and Jazz, Ratchet said. Oh, Ochre thought, they have to stop this. They dragged me up to the roof because they've been after Searchlight, and they knew he'd come up after me. They held me off the edge of the roof like they were going to drop me. He trailed off, shuddering. Primus, Ochre said. Is that true? Yeah, Searchlight said. I nodded. Ochre huffed. I can't believe that. We'll see about them. It was them before, wasn't it? When you said you'd fallen down the stairs. Why didn't you say something? Verdict's creators get him out of trouble, Ratchet said. Ochre looked down. No, not anymore. This is not acceptable. Not this time. But first I have work to do. Thank you, Soundwave. You can leave or stay, whichever you like. She scanned Searchlight again. I saw the results as they flashed across her processor. Can you give me a moment, Searchlight? I'm almost done with Ratchet, and besides I want to take you to a real medic. I'm only a nurse after all. I'm okay, Searchlight said. Ochre nodded, then used her internal comm. As she walked over to Ratchet again. Hey, Ochre. The mech she contacted said. Hey, I'd like some transportation for an injured fledgling. He's not in critical condition, he's just a little beyond my abilities. The roads are all blocked up because of Memorial Orn. Oh, right, can you get, never mind? I'll figure it out. Thanks. If you can't find any other way, comm me again. I will. Thank you, she ended the comm. She was working on Ratchet's leg again, popping out the last few dents as she called another friend. Hi, Flag, I'm at my work and I have a fledgling here with some mild internal injuries. There's some way you can get here. How bad is it? She described Searchlight's injuries. I tried not to pay attention. I really didn't want to be a medic. She finished with Ratchet's leg and scanned him one more time. You can go, Ratchet. Physically, you're fine now. Are you going to be all right though? That must have been horribly traumatic. I don't think the school counselor's here right now. You should go let Ravage know we're all right, Searchlight said. Right. Ravage was, I couldn't hear him. He was just barely out of my range. But the last time I'd been in range of him, he'd been pacing Searchlight's room, anxious. Searchlight shifted, then winced. You hold still, Ochre said, then felt sorry for her tone. Just hold still, she repeated, gentler this time. He's going to be all right. Ratchet asked. Ochre nodded. Absolutely. Fragging idiot. Ratchet thought. No, Soundwave, you and Ratchet leave me here with the bullies. I'll be fine. He and Soundwave shouldn't have come for me in the first place. They came for me, Primus. We were up there for Jors. I thought nobody was coming and they were just going to get bored and leave me there or knock me out or throw me off the roof. They wouldn't believe me. When I told them Soundwave could read minds, he looked up at me. I'm really, really sorry. I shrugged, wishing I hadn't. It's okay, saved. I did, but it was from Searchlight telling me to leave him on the roof. While that was kind of appropriate, I didn't want to make him feel worse about it. Searchlight's probably going to be here all off cycle, Ochre said. But I promise he will be all right. You two should go before lights out. Okay, Ratchet said, then slipped off the end of the berth. He sucked in a pain vent as he hit the ground on his recently straightened leg. Be careful, Ochre said. Soundwave, would you make sure he gets back to his room? She scanned me and found nothing wrong except for pain readings from my processor ache. She frowned. Why does your processor hurt? I shrugged. He gets processor ache sometimes, Searchlight said. From what? I shrugged again. If it doesn't go away in a drawer, come back here and I'll give you something for it. I'll have a real medic here anyway. He might know something about your stutter. In fact, come back in a drawer in any case. Just make sure Ratchet gets to his room. Ratchet was grateful that Ochre had sent me with him. He jumped at every shadow and expected to see the bullies around every corner. As we got close to his room, I could sense Ravage still pacing back and forth in front of the door, restless and afraid. I felt suddenly sorry for leaving him there. I also felt suddenly worried that he'd jump on Ratchet. I didn't think Ratchet could handle that right now. I stepped in front of him and opened the door. Ravage looked up, alarmed for a moment before he recognized the two of us. He backed up as we came in and Ratchet closed the door behind himself. Don't even think about it, he said to Ravage. Where's Searchlight? Ravage asked. He's in Ochre's office, Ratchet said, then started limping toward my berth. What happened? Ravage growled. They hurt you, didn't they? I won't be able to recharge for Orns. He shuddered. It's okay. They hurt me until I told them Soundwave could read minds, and then they didn't stop. Primus, I didn't finish my homework either. Somehow, that was the last straw, and he sank to his knees and covered his faceplate with his hands. Ratchet. Ravage approached him. I was so scared, Ratchet said. Primus, I thought I was going to die. Ravage patted over and curled up protectively around Ratchet. Ratchet shuddered again, but didn't push the symbiote away. After a bream, he was able to collect himself. I'm okay, he said quietly and started to get up. No, Ravage said. Ratchet stopped, then sat down again and wrapped his arms around his knees. Ravage curled around him more tightly. They sat like that for several breams. I need to do homework, Ratchet mumbled at length. I didn't have time to finish. Okay, Ravage got up and followed as Ratchet limped over and picked up the broken datapad on the floor, then stood, looking hopelessly at the knocked over chair. I give up. He sat back down on the floor and Ravage curled around him again as he turned on the datapad. The screen lit up and you could even sort of read the file it was open to, so he leaned back and started his homework. I offlined my screen and waited in darkness, wishing my range would shrink faster. It was already getting smaller, and I couldn't hear anyone outside the school anymore, but more students were showing up now. Lights out came and went. I slipped into recharge, opting not to go back down and get looked at by another medic. Ratchet recharged as well, still sitting on the floor, comforted by Ravage's presence. My systems booted up when Searchlight came in. He tried to be quiet, but I woke anyway. He looked at me guiltily when I sat up in his chair. Hi, Searchlight whispered. Sorry. Go back to recharging. I checked the time. It was nearly dawn. I had class in 3 hours. They didn't want to let me leave, Searchlight said. But I'm fine, just tired. Oh, and I don't have to go to classes next dorm. Tell Jazz hi for me in history. He lay down on his berth, feeling stiff and sore, but all right. I turned my screen off again and leaned back but had a difficult time recharging. I had a horrible processor ache that probably wasn't going to be gone by the time I had to go to class. And that was the least of my problems.